a solid finish, you still feel pretty good about your odds heading into day 2 typically, because consistency will be the key for these teams here today. There's a lot of teams dogpiling each other here at the Lavish Lair Garden. Trashy just trying to keep it moving, wants to break into that edge of zone, get some positional favoritism before the rest of the lobby has a chance to catch up. Trashy knows if this zone continues to pull towards that north side, does not want to get caught in that south end congestion. But it's hard to look back and find those tag opportunities to maintain above that damage threshold too.
What's crazy about what we're watching, especially like, forget the gameplay on the screen, I'm just looking at the way the map, the bottom right, the way all of the players are moving, they are just riding their way edge to edge. This is really showing you that there's an anomaly occurring here on the FNCS Grand Finals. This is how important it is to the players that they just want to get to the safety of the zone, base down, and if they have to fight, so be it. They'll take those fights. For Reet and Ritual, they have much more knowledge than others. They know where the next zone's going, right? So they're playing a different level of game strategically. However, they need to fight still. They need the surge here. This is a very important battle, and they find a couple tags, but they're hurt in the process.
It will be just enough, though.
You have a knock.
Given that Dalty, though, could be very difficult to actually get to. Now, still feeling the pressure, because the next zone kickoff, it means that you...
Well, here it is. Jumping in with Sphinx and Pump is down. Sphinx is left to play this out by himself, so he finds himself a nice little elimination to keep him in the game. Just barely holding on by a thread there. However, for Reet and Ritual, things are still looking tough. Although they go back and forth here with their surge damage, other teams have an eye on top of them. 20 seconds until the damage does start to turn completely online. And if they don't find tags now, I mean, it might just be impossible to do so later. But you never know, given the nature of the lobby, players are going to start to fall here. It could potentially survive a little bit longer. I'm more curious to see as to why Ree and crew haven't actually just healed. Just
on the fact that they wanted to maintain that Flowberry Fizz for when their shields inevitably get cracked. They can use this Flowberry Fizz to try and regen a little bit of shield. Try and keep their white HP from going down too low. All they need is 4 more players to go down. But at the same time, no one is willing to budge from their box. If you're safe, if you're not below that damage threshold, there's no reason, even a thought process.
They actually find it right there, and it is so close. They are just barely holding on. Now, let's not count them safe just yet, as of course, 3 more players still have to fall, and there's going to be the next threshold that they're going to have to worry about there. What an intense moment, and they were virtually gifted. Gifted all the information from the tower early on. Bugha also having a very difficult game here. Take a look at this. Aviv with a singular elimination taken out. Ritual under pressure now from the rifle of Bugha. He's only 39 above, make that 100 now, but also just very much on that very thin lining here, trying to hold on to this tournament run here.
Won't be able to hang on for much longer. Gets picked off as he desperately tries to make a play on the low ground for some damage. That's going to be the end of his Lobby 1 run, but Bila up top here with Quanti. Now going to look to try to max pull zone here. So Bila just want to get straight towards the next zone, but immediately you look to use that grapple blade towards frontside zone, you're going to get ate up in the process here. Bila, Quanti just barely managing trying to see if they can get it.
Found it tremendously difficult to make it to endgame, let alone be in a high ground position. Meanwhile, Yamzo and Rise are just continuing to cook here, but they are below the surge and they're fighting ever so for it. And just because you have a grapple hook, you can see it is not free by any means to find yourself safe into the next zone. Pressure is coming from every single angle as the surge continues to force players to make decisions they wouldn't otherwise make. Yamzo, Rise traps someone in the box, but not quick enough to get the elimination, and it's Bila who's on the run right now with DK on the other side.
Just straight grapple up. That's the method from Epic and Clix. Epic, though, forced to fall back. Seems his damage a little bit too much to continue trying to hold high there for the time being. Duke threats more or less the same boat. Also try to look for a little bit of a high challenge here. Now Duke forced. Try and use his med kit, but using the med kit also still managing to hold on to height.
Did an excellent job defending against Clix and Epic Whale. I'm actually surprised they managed to do that considering they had two singular towers based out a very difficult way to hold the zone, but you know what, they each hold their own, and look at this, Clix continued to tear up here as he's at 5 eliminations, forced to the low ground. Epic Whale's down, no builds, has to rat his way into the edge here, and he has continued to go. He finds a solo in front of him, it's cold. It might be Acorn in the top 10 of the ultimate low ground. Trashy here with just 4 eliminations, trying to make the best here, but they've already done so much, and the sleeper duo of Muzz and Paper securing high ground. This might be their game.
Muzz and Paper, though, drop in momentarily. Looks like they want to try and apply some pressure towards this bottom side. Rise and Yamzo, when these two are together, the low ground demons really tend to shine here. As now it's just a Minish as a solo directly above Rise and Yamzo. They've got ample mats to keep targeting forward. That's going to be a drop down momentarily from Paper and Muzz. They're trying to find these last few players standing in the lobby. But it's Rise, it's Yamzo.
Back to back to back, but Acorn is that wild factor as he snipes up the high ground here. Rise and Yamzo get taken out to the hands of Muzz and Paper. Paper jumps down and goes for it all, and in the end, Muzz is the one who is still standing. It seems like Muzz and Paper did just enough to take that first game there.
And that's incredibly close, by the way. For a moment there, it looked as though there was going to be an upset opportunity. Yeah, but sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
We've seen a lot of trades, actually. It'd be not a surprise to me if that was a very much fair trade and Acorn potentially took it. Who knows at this point? But take a look from the other perspective. Paper and Muzz had the determination to win this game, and I wanted to call them out a little bit sooner. I love the fact they were rotating a little bit later instead of immediately grapple hooking in, and it seems like that was the key to success here, as at the very end, they ride the storm out. Take a look, Muzz is in the back lines, healing, and on the front lines.
And Paper Muzz, this is a team that you can definitely expect some pretty big things out of MDF, but definitely a very strategical. Can't wait to see what Zeke and the analysts might have been able to take away from this one.
The only thing I have to take away is action. Wow. NA game 1 of the grand finals delivers. I cannot believe how that all unfolded. Acorn, we're going to talk about him in a second. I want to start with Muzz and Paper, of course. My gosh, to start the competition with the victory royale and to take the fight to Yamzo and Rise in the manner that they did, this is a statement.
Yeah, I don't even know really what happened towards the end of that game there. I mean, Acorn and Cold looked like they were solid up on the high ground. They were able to defend Clix and Epic Whale, and then all of a sudden we look away for about 5 seconds and it's Paper and Muzz up on the high ground. What a way for them to actually secure that high ground, have the med kits to close the game out. So clutch.
And it wasn't just Clix and Epic Whale that they defended high ground against. It was Duke and Threats as well. And I think once they had to go up against both duos, Cold and Acorn decided to drop down low. I'm sure they used up some of their heals and everything, and that allowed Muzz and Paper to take height and to steal height away from Acorn and Cold. The duo that they're contesting against in Fencing Fields has to be a bit feels good, right?
I mean, listen, if anybody were to ever ask me, hey, what's the best POI in the game, I think I'd have to say Fencing Fields at this point. I mean, both teams landing there, both of them getting top 2 in game number 1 of the
World are you doing, brother? He had no right, no business making it in the top 5, and somehow, some way flies just under the radar with a med kit and just stays long enough alive to take away 2nd place. Those points could come back to bite everybody else.
Oh, they definitely colluded solo clutches of this caliber. Acorn being an FNCS champion himself, he knows exactly what he needs to do. And listen, it starts at every single game. There may be 12 games, but every single one of them matters. And him making the most out of game number 1 is going to pay dividends after all is said and done.
And I love this. Zone 9 confidently seeing the team on high ground being just using wood. They are able to chop them down and then use the tower to claim height, which is so smart. They were so aware of what was going on around them. And then, of course, they controlled the high ground for so long until they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, just works out so perfectly. And then clutching up as well, getting as many eliminations, even when he's so low HP. That's what Cold's good for. Always finding those last-second eliminations. What a game number 1, Z.
Yeah, and Clix kind of playing a little bit of spoiler there, right? If Clix had not showed up, they might have actually looked to take away this win, right? Because it was Clix who got in the way and said, now you're left to fend for yourself, Acorn. But Acorn said, 2nd place, no problem. Watch me. My gosh, of course, we're going to take a look at the standings here in just a moment to kind of see how things are going. But the Victory Royale paired with the eliminations, take a look. Muzz and Paper are leading the pack. Now, it's still pretty close, right? Yamso and Rise
paying off, but Clix and Epic Whale not being phased by the off-spawn situation is what I really love to see.
Yeah, and they made a really smart move, Yamso and Rise, in the in-game there, where they're kind of on the mid-ground, can't control the low ground as well as you'd hope to. So I think Yamso and Rise definitely fell into a lesser good situation there, but then they were able to grab all those eliminations. It seems like whatever cold that Yamso had is no longer an issue now.
Okay. A lot of these duos, they've impressed me, right? They're ready to go, which is interesting because many duos for game 1, it normally really slow, right? No one wants to make any mistakes. No one wants to go out first, but a lot of these duos are already heating up. They want to kick off this competition the right way. Now, of course, as we prepare ourselves, game 2 is upon us. So why don't we head on over? We got our casters. It's MDF and the best Taco.
Yeah, at this point, I don't even think Yamso and Rise are under the weather. I believe the adrenaline has kicked in. The focus is locked and loaded, and that has to be a confidence booster there, Taco.
If Yamso wants to make this his Jordan flu game, then I'm all for it because he's going to need that much, I think, energy at the very least to make it through day number 1 because, again, with 12 matches ahead, well, 11 remaining currently, but 5 on the day still to go. It's going to be a lot, but I think it's something he can definitely power through.
Yeah, well, listen, shout out to Muzz and Paper, especially because they were highly contested. Their entire area is a war zone, quite literally in game. And for them to make it that far and walk out of there with a Victory Royale is extremely impressive. But this is also going to open their eyes that this is possible. Anything is possible here. The biggest eyes we want to keep eye on are the mid games of Re and Ritual. How will they adjust? What will they do in order to really push the envelope and not fall underneath the surge problems that they had that game? Because that is definitely something worth going under review. So we'll see here as game number 2 is now ready. Here we have it, Taco. Game 2 is here. And we wanted to talk about potential contested battles, potential fights that are happening. We already saw Kanata and Agers have an early game engagement. It seems like Cooper and Miro have a difficult time happening here up against Veneto or Sinetto and Veer.
Sinetto and Veer challenging the likes. Well, I say challenge, but that didn't look too problematic as far as Cooper is concerned. Just wins that initial 50-50 off spawn, got to the weapons first. next. And now at the Marigold, Cooper, Miro, more than happy to just take their time looting out the entirety of the yacht here. Same story can't be said though for Baka. No eyes on pars. Have to assume that this has been a 1-for-1 trade so far. Aaron not gonna look for the revive opportunity just yet. Wants to see if he can get this wraparound instead onto Baka. Take advantage of some of those chuck barrels, and now trying to close in onto Baka. But again, early enough, Baka can still make the recovery for pars off a reboot van if he wins this initial engagement. Game number 1 did not go the way of Bakalizing this building. Over by out the match this time, playing through as a duo.
Yeah, but smartly and wisely backs off here to get a little bit more material. Aaron snipes up what gets, spawned out of his teammate's body as well, along with the card. And look at this, Baka with the ambush play up above here. A little sneaky, but he's completely out of mass. Has to edit his way down, and it's another great spot for him to be in here. All in all, there's a couple of ways that he could play this out, but we might be seeing the story flip to the other side of the shoe here now, as again, Cooper and Miro actually were one of the first teams eliminated last game. Baka and pars as well. Can they turn this around? I mean, Baka has a difficult task in front of him, and if he's gonna stand around here, I mean, the risk is gonna continue to rise. But he's just trying to get material, but every time he swings his way out into the open, he doesn't feel safe. He's using it a lot sooner than he'd like. And Aaron now, recognizing that he has a chance here to push in. He's found Baka again. He goes for it. Hits the cone, and that's the difference with having just a little bit more material there.
The other problem too for Baka is he just doesn't have a shotgun. You've got Aaron with the Frenzy Auto. Aaron trying to close in. Baka still looking to put in work, but this Hyper SMG just paling in comparison. Still, Baka rolling out on top here. Revenge established for pars. Now it's going to be all about that reboot card into the reboot van opportunity. Agers and Kanata, though, might find the run ending here shortly as Agers does go down to the likes of Hound and Aiden. Another team successful with our initial off spawn. And these are some massive battles that are brewing here, because we had our hunches in game number 1 about Agers and Kanata being contested at their drop when they initially weren't expected to be. So
yeah, but it's looking like there's even more going on there. Not only did they already have eliminations, Hound came out of nowhere. That's a completely new team that has decided to rotate into that. And that's what happens, adjustments to adjustment, right? Game to game. Players are going to recognize, oh, look, Agers and Kanata land right here. It seems like they're contested. Maybe we should have rotated that way.
Things actually looking a little bit beneficial here. Chim finding a massive blow there onto Piggle. And this is a huge swing against Jiven, because when you factor in the eliminations acquired by that duo, Jiven and Piggle, throughout the course of semis, Piggle had 19 of their total 22 team eliminations. So it's going to be quite the uphill journey for Jiven to recover this one.
Last time we tuned in with Day and Redux, they were taken out early on by the hands of Epic Whale and Clix. This time it's Xpawn and Mew who take the fight here. Day, his back is against the wall. Can he earn any points here for the second game? It's not looking too hot, as Xpawn has a huge HP lead at the moment. Day left to run here, scrambling for any scrap of resource. And Mew still has his down teammate there too, and this might be the mistake of the push here. He's given Day enough time to already start to regenerate some more shield, and Day does have a med kit here, but look at the piece up from Xpawn. It's looking great. The Day is absolutely ready here.
Xpawn has to be hyper aggressive though, unless he wants to try and find this last minute revive, but not going to be able to make it to Mew in time. So a true 1v1 due to take place here at the Rebels Roost, but Day actually finding a decent little loot pickup. Have to imagine that was Redux's loot that Day was able to take advantage of. Crash pad out. What I was going to say, MDF, is that if Day and Xpawn take too long, keep in mind there's still that rotate coming out of Clix and Epic Whale from Lavish Slayer. We know how often that duo loves to rotate towards Rebels Roost. So Xbot and Dave have got to figure it out who's going to be the duo that gets Elim there. Because it won't be long before Clix and Epic Whale try to sniff them out. It's Forecast Towers, all due to be claimed here. Ritual and Reet collecting their standard one, given that the Forecast Tower southeast of Reckless Railways is the only one with a 100% spawn-in rate.
You can see 2AM Zavi here just sitting back, too wary to go for the potential NPCs in the forecast. They're not possible there, and it seems like although they won their fight, Bryce tries to come here to the hillside to play for a pickup, and there's still too many players lurking about.
That's the issue. You've got the likes of Betmambuga and Rapid rotating to Hazy Hillside from their drop at Research Rock.
And actually, it's Yamzo and Rise who are looking in, ready to fight for the zone here.
Not too surprising, though, when you factor in Yamzo and Rise dropping over by Lil Villa. They definitely have access towards trying to find third parties into a handful of Pan Hill here by the Hazy Hillside. And that's going to default Rapid and Betmambuga to actually go down the hill face. Make sure they get out of the line of sight there from Rise and Yamzo on their rotate.
Get an update with Clix and Epic Whale here. I would love an update on Muzz and Paper potentially, as well, as we see our elimination point leaders and our overall placement point leaders are all sitting up at the top. Take a look here. Speaking about that top 10, our 8th place Sovzi has been already dropped. Jump in and looks Clix really to tell us a lot about how they're feeling on the day. I was gonna say whether or not they finish this fight or back off is gonna be so important to the play style that they're looking to execute on, and they're gonna back out. So what we're getting from this, what we're downloading from this, is that they want to play for the long haul. You have to respect it. Here's that update we were looking for.
It's just too massive of a body of water, and with the other hillside being so open, so easy for another team.
Through lobby after lobby, making it look so easy, and they're continuing that pace, that
Rich's situation. You can see all the material, max mats there from Peterbot. Have to imagine that Poyo is essentially maxed out as well, full cap on those builds. Acorn gonna finally get an opportunity here now that Peterbot and Poyo have rotated out, but Acorn definitely having to keep in mind that there is at least one team close by. Still, at least he will be able to reap some of the benefits of these drawn mid-game.
Yeah, nearly impossible here in between this little low ground position, trying to stay low as far as their profile and presence is concerned. For Yamzo and Rise, they've made their way from the outskirts on into the new zone, and they find themselves completely situated, actually, with a healthy amount of material, ammunition, extra heals. I'm wondering if whether or not they need to fight, though, because of the fact they don't have eliminations here. That might be their biggest drawback. Oof. He's going to be upset about that, but you see the returning fire. No hesitation. And the sniper shots coming back here. But hey, Taco, look, we have activity everywhere.
Just completely running down Freeze. Freeze and Sus falling to the likes of Epic and Clix, though. That's definitely going to be a pretty big pickup as far as their surge damage threshold is concerned. But Ritual finding themselves in a bit of an engagement here, just underneath the Rift Island. The other thing to keep in mind is Reet will take this Rift up. You can just look to try and trade damage, as long as you don't find yourself getting knocked or fully limbed in the process. Acorn and Cold, though. Acorn's rescue mission a success, as Cold is back up and running, but they are so far south of where the zone is at.
The safety, you can see that's actually them here, moving up from the flank of Duke. Little do they know, there's a lot of attention looking this way as teams are hunting for Duke, so they do have here because he has quite the loadout. A loadout that should not be one to where you'll be missing a teammate here. So with threats being eliminated, he too is going to have to probably play into the zone right now to play for a pickup. He surely has the heals.
But again, just outside that edge of zone, you can see how many teams are already situated up on some of these hills now, facing around Ritzy Riviera, Cooper, Miro. Rather impressive Skybase themselves, as Cooper will opt to go to the top of his, try and gauge out if there's any team. A lot of pressure as well on Cooper and Miro when you really boil it all down, MDF. I mean, coming off of that global championship win, you know that this team wants to replicate that sensation of being the champions.
That Acorn and Cold had to be wary of the fact that Duke was playing Storm, and it's them right back into this game here. And they're at 5 eliminations, so one can assume that even if they don't get a lot of placement points, this game is not a dud by any means. These elims are extremely, extremely important. Here goes the big rotate, though. Just going to put them right back into the mix of things.
Again, still so much ground to cover. Granted, crash pads with the Flowberry Fizz will help mitigate some of those troubles, but got to make sure to land on them. Unfortunate there for Acorn. Cold does have a grapple, though, just off of Duke's spot. Forced to the low ground for the time being, but they definitely want to try and work their way up. Will find themselves a nice bush here to kind of poison for the time.
What a zone. Duo's trying to, you know, simulate the same exact strategy. There are no free rotations in the FNCS Grand Finals lobby. That's why you have to truly appreciate teams that can execute well and do it without taking any casualties. G Money as well finds his own teammate down, and he's so wary. In fact, he doesn't want to go for the pickup at this exact moment, right? He's waiting it out. He's making absolutely sure the coast is clear, and the zone continues to put the pressure on. So look at that. He won't even be able to save him.
Right now, G Money throwing that med kit up, trying to toss forward what you need. That way, you don't have to stay inside of that edge of the next zone. And they're actually going to take this moment, turn back now, see if there's any other teams they can look to hold. But Clix, he's wary of this duo that's up on the hill. It's going to be Blake and Macwood, just west of where Clix and Epic are currently at. They're not content with their position. They want to go even further.
Yeah, Clix is actually holding that sniper out there. He was trying to see if Blake or Macwood would get. Clix, who's been running sniper all season long, is definitely due for a big tag on stream. Take a look at the rotate here. Free as day here on the beach, as Quanti's getting himself completely situated. This is a huge, huge way for him to get right back into the game. But first, an update from the Twins here. Bugha and Aviv dressed for success right now, as they're sitting dead.
To want to set themselves up definitely would lead me to believe that they keep that damage threshold well above. Poyo, Peterbot also waiting to see if anybody dares step to them. More than happy to try and get some tags of their own. Acorn and Cold, they finally found their way back to the thick of the action here and waste no times in taking out all of our OG.
Not only that, they secure the loot. Most importantly, they get to pick up all of that loot there. Reed and Ritual was sitting right up above them, but I don't believe there was any resistance there, as Reed actually gets knocked to the hands of Rise here. What happened? They were rotating. How do you get a knock in the middle of a rotation is a question to be answered for a later time. However, Ritual will get the pickup. Rise contemplating whether or not it's worth pushing into, and he's going to investigate, but no luck there. He's a little too late to the party. And Miro edging their way up underneath the bases of Re and Ritual and Muzz and Paper next door. Keep your eyes on the field for that potential clash.
Muzz and Paper is the main one to keep an eye out for. They're on the same exact layer. Try and crank up, but Muzz, Paper are all too quick with it. They're going to go for the instantaneous chop. They've got their, especially not if they're able to. As the zone continues to pool, Rise sneak on by and try to hang out through the backside of the zone.
But look at the aggression. He knows that he needs a refresh here. He knows he has to make a big play. He jumps into the box, gets the finish, gets the material, and now he has an actual chance here. Not only that, with the clean escape, breaks out the side with the grapple hook. This is a player that is willing to fight for it and to put it all on the line, but no, little too soon, too early with the rotate to the front side of zone, as positioning is of course key, and he finds the lobby looking right at him. Wow. What is this though? A huge find is gonna put him right back in the game for a second.
Somebody's got just like a little burrow hoisted up in the middle of nowhere.
He doesn't trust it.
He's definitely wary, but it doesn't matter. The loot has already been secured. And despite having been heavily punished for that paper, trying to keep things going, but he's not gonna have a chance to revive Muzz. Simply too far in here. He's gonna have to leave his duo behind. Don't even think he had a chance to collect any of the materials left over from Muzz. Now Paper knows he's just gotta get ahead of where this zone pool is going.
He was just a couple moments away from being able to secure that loot, but he finds a new body instead. And there goes the material a little bit, but the material he needed nonetheless there. And Paper is right back into this game here. And we called it. We knew Miro and Cooper were eyeing them up. But look at high ground. Clix and Epic Whale once again going for a high ground retake here. This is the second game in a row now. So bold and accurately actually managed to take this high ground this time. Coming back into the game here against all odds now are at 6 eliminations. Front side of low ground zone. Arguably some of the pioneers of this type of play style in motion in endgame right now.
Aviv and Bugha, though, looking to give the low ground a little bit of a challenge here. Aviv, Bugha, likely also going to opt for a high ground take if they're also tarping through front side low. Peterbot and Pollo, though, not trying to let anybody have fun underneath them. They've got so much suppressive fire going into these low ground builds.
Worth noting, Paper is still alive as well in the zone. He makes it well into the top 10 now. For another game, absolutely incredible as he was by himself. And he falls to the hands of Miro, of Cooper, who, by the way, were taken out from 45th in game number 1. Here for game 2, their fight, they wait all the way back into the top 10 and plenty of eliminations to boot for it, to show for it as well. Pollo and Peterbot making up for this time too. Finds Chimp here on the high ground, and this is all but their game to lose at this point, as they have all of the momentum here in their favor.
Now Cooper, who's trying to play spoiler to the high ground, minimal chop. But it's gonna be Peterbot, Pollo, challenging Bugha, Aviv knocked inside of the bush. Peterbot, Pollo, they know it's just them versus Bugha. Bugha can't make it happen.
There's only so many places you can be, and he does not miss finding the wonderful tag there to close the game out. And just like that, it was only a matter of time before Bugha, Aviv, Cooper, Miro, and all the other big dogs make their way into the next game and into an end game, most importantly. And look at that, the favorites are up at the top now.
Definitely looking very chaotic, though. Neither the low ground or the high ground, wherever really all that safe, Bugha is going to look to try and hide out in to turn this in his favor. But a 1 versus 2 up against Peterbot and Pollo. I mean, come on, MDF.
Yep, it was just a matter of time. Congratulations to Peterbot and Pollo as they take this game number 2. And my gosh, FNCS does not disappoint by any means. We are off to a very explosive start, and we're seeing some of the best clash it out.
Yeah.
Going to game number 2. They think, all right, where are we at, Pollo? Well, Peterbot, we're in 42nd place. He said, how many points do we have? He said 0 points. He's here in NA. And every time, how many times, Vivid, have we seen them come in 2nd place, almost get the victory royale, then a couple occasions get a victory royale?
This is why they are favorites by some people to actually go ahead and win this FNCS. But the big question mark, the big thing holding them back on a lot of predictions, to just rain chaos on the rest of the lobby mechanically. I mean, Pollo, look at this. I mean, the reaction time, instantly being aware of just anything that might come his way. That's why this duo is so good, because individually, they're the best.
Without a doubt, they are mechanically 2 of the best players in the world, not just in North America. And to see them be able to claim high ground and a late high ground, which definitely seems to be the strategy for success here, and then use that to their advantage. And I love just how this ended off. Of course, Peterbot and Bugha are
a master for control in that last game, right? Allowing and dictating lobby. You are allowed to do these things, and we will control height. You can try, but you will not take it from us. Let's look at these standings. Let's see how things are going after the first 2 games. Now, nobody panic. It's just the first 2 games. We have 12 across 2 days, rather. Acorn and Cole jumping up, and then look at this top 5, 6, 8. This top 10, Vivid, I'm losing it.
there's like 18 different storylines to break down after game number 2. I don't even know which one to pick. Let's go with the Clix and Epic Whale one, right? 5th place for them is huge. I think that one thing we were missing in semifinals from Clix was his ability to hold it for a couple of seconds has been a big part of their game plan. Can't wait for them to actually hold it for the entirety of an end game.
Yeah, and we saw this during the semifinals. They keep going for height just a little too early, and they were able to.
Over to you.
Hey, can always appreciate big things coming out of the North American players here, but we do have Game 3 shortly underway. Monster, you look like you had something to say there, though.
Yeah, it was definitely that this weekend, the implications of the FNCS Grand Finals is so start to set things up. Everything will... Well, Taco, we get to talk about it. We get to see it all unfold here, especially as we likely will tune in with more of a contested early game. So last game, early on, Mira and Cooper were highly contested, but they finished to have a bit of resistance, right?
Knock of Sanito and Veer. We saw just how rapidly Cooper was able to end the run here for Sanito and Veer in match number 2. Now Cooper next to Miro. They're just going to keep breaking on down. They want the immediate challenge up against the likes of Veer and Sanito. But they also want to make sure they're getting proper materials online as well. Sanito and Veer are actually going to recognize the fact that they were just beat to the punch. The drop just not good enough, and rather than find them, but as far as that reference towards a pro's adaptability, what I mean by that, MDF, is when you think about how recently these new surge thresholds were actually implemented, and just seeing how quickly these pros are making sure to adapt towards that, it is no easy means, as is playing out a grand set logger. It's just impressive stuff to see.
Yeah, and you know, it couldn't be more clear. We've seen so many instances already in Game 1 and Game 2 that really showcase the difference between your average, you know, casual, even ranked arena game versus FNCS finalists, and the way they maneuver, the way they, you know, play the map and position themselves on the outskirts. That last game, number 2, type of strategy that likely will mirror your own, and we're going to see that time and time again. Right here is a great example of Tier. And then to the north, a Solo might be looking to engage into this battle here shortly as well. It's not looking good for Maxo as he gets finished off here to Pars and Baka, but there's threats everywhere.
This is big, though, for Pars and Baka. Over here on the far west side of the map, they've been encountering quite a lot of sticky situations, and not every single one of them necessarily going their way. This match, though, Pars and Baka at least off into connect, that they've got a little bit of competition here at their drop. But for Veer and Sanito, having been forced off of the Marigold, now into an area where, sure, you've got familiarity with the map, but that doesn't necessarily mean you know it as well as Kanata and Agers probably do, since it's where they've been dropping all season long. And things only continue to pick up here as Sigma.
A1 is, of course, important to setting up your foundation for becoming the champion of the first FNCS, you know, of the year. However, day 2 is so much more important to perform even better or just as good, because the leading here in 6th so far, all in all, one of the first teams to crack that triple-digit point. And Cam and Aminish, another team that we haven't covered too much of or really have spoke about their strategy, have seemingly found themselves in a very consistent flow so far.
Yeah, Cam and Aminish just waiting things out. Baka and Pars off on the horizon. Would almost expect that it's because of the fact Baka and Pars very likely going to challenge Peterbot and Pollo for the forecast tower that spawns a little bit east of Reclaim Villa. We'll have to wait and see, though, whether that hunch holds up, because Ritual and Reed, on the other hand, they've got at this forecast tower, and gotta be excited to see what they're planning on doing
Or will they just allow them to quite possibly walk away with a free FNCS Grand Finals? And I say free because they have such an advantage knowing where every single next zone will go. It kind of reminds me back when Bila won his FNCS Grand, his finals championship, essentially. They had center map. They were so positioned. He and Peterbot just ran away with the most advantageous. If teams don't adjust and they allow Re and Ritual to, patch up the mistakes they made in game one, they're going to start to take away a pretty monstrous lead. It's going to be hard to close that gap.
I'm right there with you. Everything as far as day one is concerned, you can never really get too comfortable with your game plan, with your Storm Surge strategy, because, again, like you just touched on, Monster, very strong or at least try and pose more of a challenge to some players that might have had a little bit more of a luxurious stroll here in our first day of competition. But this is the halfway point.
I'm curious right now if Epic Whale and Clix have an idea if there's a team there. I see Clix looking outwards to the edge, but there's a lot of movement happening there, not only in the distance, but just in front of them. Oh, once again, this Quanti game 2 happening here in game 3, but a completely different area of the map. Jumping on over to Re and Ritual, a team that knows that they have to fight here. Have Jiven cornered out right now.
Ritual and Re a run for their money, but already highlighted a little bit earlier on today, Piggle definitely the fragger between these two as far as those semi-stats are concerned. But Piggle and Jiven maybe bit off a little bit more than they could chew. Shot though, traded out here as Re down to 62 shield. It's gonna look to get a little bit of height overhead, but oddly enough, Ritual actually gonna opt to fall back momentarily. Probably scouting out the fact that at the bottom of this hill, there's another duo that could potentially be looking to try and pose a threat.
Jiven's name, but I've been doing it for years now, so I apologize.
It's tradition.
It's just tradition at this point. Everyone knows the NBF special. But look at this cluster of Paper and Muzz here. They're next to all the other top 10s, and then Clix and Epic Whale right now are finding themselves in what will be the most, critical battle for them to finish up, and they do get X-Pawn. I was just gonna say, this is for Surge, this is for positioning, this is for getting an individual and just full send on the singular piece that Epic Whale and Clix are honestly playing like an extremely top tier duo. This is very exciting to watch them continue to develop and catch their moments like this.
Thresholds, because you have to remember when it was first optioned for a method of practice, it was in the duo Cash Cup, right? Clix and Epic, they didn't qual for that. And yet, still here today, they are showcasing that they were still able to develop a strategy aside from that being a problem, because so many players would love to get a little bit of set lobby practice. Even if it's not the grand set lobby, it's still set lobby practice, especially for such a massive change like the Surge thresholds having been impacted. So Clix and Epic, they've clearly got something figured out here, and it's working.
Jumped up roughly 45 spots from game 1 to game 2, putting themselves right up at the top of the totem pole here. They're in 8th here on the tournament standing so far as we start leaning into game 3, and it's exciting to see them actually catch their footing. And same thing for Day and Redux, who were some of the first teams eliminated game 1, and you can't forget he's had so many extreme moments of greatness. Redux is a competitor who's been around for a very long time. Slowly has been working his way up into the top tier echelon of teammates and playing with better and better duos season after season to continue to truly turn up.
Day and Redux, a little bit of problem here posed by Higher and Raze. The longer this engagement takes, the easier it's going to be for another team to potentially place spoiler alert to both of these duos. Day and Redux likely well aware of the fact that they're probably drawing in more company. They want to see if they can acquire just a little bit more damage. Just each as Day, Redux, even if they weren't able to find the damage that they'd necessarily been after, at the same time, they don't want to risk finding themselves eliminated or getting caught up, pincered between several of those teams.
Yeah, you can't just keep throwing away games like that when you have a pretty bad game 1, game 2. You're game 3, you're alive this long, you just got O'd up. It was all types of bad. I don't blame them for rotating out. I think it's the wisest decision they could have made. Now on over to Rise and Yamza, though, who have continued to trend in the right direction here. Still continue. I'm thinking that's a team that is going to be a serious. They're fishing for something.
Certainly familiar with that sensation. Unfortunately enough, looking to try and 180 things here in the halfway point of today's matches. But Duke and Threats, they've got... It's decent elevation, sure, but at the same time, even the people that are near you, they're probably not peaking. So Duke and Threats likely going to have to just be forcibly aggressive. That 110 does not feel good.
I just saw a huge elimination too happen in the feed where Ritual seemingly took on Cam. Don't forget, Cam and Aminish sleeper duo was sitting at the pretty highly, pretty respectably on the standing after those first 2 games. So to get a little update there shortly, but Cold and Acorn right now have Edgy and Tavern here. It's on the west, but nothing's gonna turn out from this here. Hold up, little engagement here.
Nada and Agers though. It's gonna be Veer coming out on top for that one. You can recognize the fact there's gonna be a little bit of congestion one more time, building up towards that south side. All these teams looking to escape Reckless Railways, potentially getting held up even by some of these players here on top of the Rift Island. Could be looking to take some shots downwards. Peterbot Poyo, we see it's not desperation necessarily when it's Peterbot. He's always this aggressive, but he will get punished for it. When you go for those super direct challenges, it's not always a guarantee that you're going to come out on top here.
We just love to see by Quanti, all of these teams, not only once in previous, of course, ex-teammates, but now on the other side of the fence going head-to-head, toe-to-toe. And just on the other side, you have Cooper and Miro listening to everything that's going down right now. What a dangerous Rift Island if we've ever seen one. And Peterbot and Poyo, little do they know, have their work cut out so far. But the zone's revealed itself. They're definitely going to have to roll out of here shortly. It just seems like they don't want to be the first to go.
The other problem, though, for Peterbot and Poyo, Poyo looking kind of scarce there. As far as his materials were concerned, Cold getting pieced up. Using that grapple blade, didn't get a chance to actually check the bush. And unfortunately, Cold inside of the box. Edgy Tavern from the bush to the...
It's like they just went off into the distance. Acorn and Cold had no idea they'd be lurking this far away in a completely different bush. It could have been any team that decided to rotate this way. And it's just unlucky now for Acorn, who's also below the surge, by the way. So this is going to be one of his only moments right here. One of the most critical times here to find some tags, while you have teams like Piggle here, like get any easier than this. Not that this is a
one for him is the fact that Jagveer, hard pressed to believe that Acorn wasn't identified as a solo at least, but still, the damage that he applied was intimidating enough.
Yeah, and you have to think about it. You have to think about they were in wood builds too, right? And in a very vulnerable position. 2 for his troubles. 1 onto Poyo there, and another in the low ground. Poyo and Peterbot cleaned up, wrapped up, and talking about experienced professional players. Acorn with the turn and burn here, with all the pressure of the lobby on his back, continuing to press on to the neck here of Golden here. The pressure too hard to overcome right now. And just like that, he's still in the game here, earning points.
That was Booga. That Acorn is just 180 pumping to the face, by the way. Booga sees Acorn distracted, tries to prey upon him, instead gets his face ripped off for it. That is an absurdly insane shot there from Acorn. The fact that he came out on top and is able to extend the placement possibilities for Cold and himself, absolutely insane stuff there.
We'll take a look at Epic Whale standings, that those implications are going to have for him falling a little too early here in this end game. However, Acorn is positioned on a pretty high spot here of this mountain, and it's going up and over. This is a great overall spot to be in right now, as he's going to have free opportunities to make the rotates, and also who is now likely his arch nemesis of the lobby, Edgy and Tavern, are sitting up top. And look at this, Bold in the open, Paper and Muzz just walking around in the